Hello, I am Baymax, your personal healthcare companion. Please remember, it is fun to be smart. Have fun.
And that is our Oscar winner, Baymax. Yay! Big Hero 6.
Doesn't Baymax sound a little bit like a popular computer voice from years ago?
He does a little
smidge?
bit. A smidge, but that's part of what Scott Adsit was working on to develop the voice.
That's a compliment, by the way. That's a good thing.
I mean, it's not totally human, just enough sentience to give a humanity to it. But I am so excited. Big Hero 6. Festa, yes. I've been talking about Big Hero 6 since July.
Was it favored to win it all?
It came down. It was a lot of people were expecting How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Right.
Especially since Lego Movie wasn't even nominated.
A crime. Everyone knows it's a crime.
It was a crime.
That's when everything is not awesome.
That's true.
Yeah.
Even though that production number of Everything is Awesome was really pretty darn awesome.
The most awesomest part of the show. Yeah.
Well, no, I think the opening.
Which one? The opening was good.
The opening was phenomenal.
Yes.
The set, the Oscar set this year, they outdid themselves there.
Yes.
They fell down on the writing for Neil Patrick Harris. But
yes.
And then the water cooler moment of Lady Gaga doing the Sound of Music medley.
Yes.
That in and of itself I would not call a water cooler moment. And I had already tweeted about that last night. Now, if we have Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer come out with the Von Trapp children, that would be a water cooler moment. We got Julie Andrews.
Right. It was a moment, though.
It was
not
definitely
a water cooler, but it was a good enough moment, I thought. And it was a nice transition into, they went to the best soundtrack after that.
Julie Andrews presented the best score. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I think it was a good transition, but it was not a water cooler moment.
No. We're going to get the water cooler moment at TCM.
Yes. You've had a lot of water cooler moments yourself over the last week, so I can't wait until we get to that stuff. So,
but we've got anybody that there are still tickets available for TCM March 26th. Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer, and I've heard inklings there may be some Von Trapp children showing up.
Oh, nice. Inklings, huh?
Inklings.
So, okay, cool.
I have my sources.
Nice. Good.
But TCM is the next big thing on our plate after this weekend.
And very quickly, do you cover the entire festival? Do you watch a lot of the screenings? Do you do a lot of the interviews at TCM for the fest?
I do as many interviews as I can. Interviews are difficult at TCM merely because the people you really want to talk to are the elder statesmen in the industry, and many just aren't available for interviews. It's really tough.
Because they're so slammed with...
Well, they're slammed, but also, when you get up in age...
Right.
The joints don't move. The brain sometimes doesn't work,
That being said, Maureen O'Hara has a lot more movement and brains than I do. Just watching her last year, we were talking about that a couple of shows ago. She has a lot of energy.
Yes.
So.
And I will forever be, on my resume, I was chastised by Maureen O'Hara for coughing and not standing up so God could see me and bless me.
Nice.
That will go down in history for me.
So was this a fulfilling weekend for you as far as movies go? Movies that won in the Spirits or the Oscars, or was it overall a really great weekend for you?
This was, for me, an amazing weekend for movies. Oscars, Grand Budapest Hotel picked up 4, the techie stuff. Alexander Desplat did not cancel himself out, being a double nominee for Best Original Score.
Yeah.
So that was, and very correctly, he won for Grand Budapest because that soundtrack with Grand Budapest is so inventive, so creative, and the musicality of it and the musical instruments that were used to create it.
Yeah.
It just it truly is the best.
Speaking of the best and a little bit of music, regarding Whiplash, I thought J.K.'s acceptance speech where he he pretty much convinces or pleads for people to call their parents while they're still around and listen to them. That was a short and sweet and very moving. I almost teared up at that acceptance speech myself.
That was beautiful.
So
that was really beautiful. But of course, I got to see J.K. grab an award the day before at the Spirit Awards.
And how was that? How did that make you feel? Did he scream? Did he have a really great acceptance speech or anything like that?
He was, I didn't really get to see his acceptance speech because the way it works at the Spirit Awards is we're sitting in the press tent after doing the carpet.
Oh.
And we're watching part of the show on air. But as winners come back to the press tent, they turn the volume down and you're concentrating on trying to ask questions to the winner. So we will be we will be hearing from some of the winners and my handy-dandy questions to them. But first, we have to talk about the pink carpet this year.
The pink carpet.
The pink carpet.
It was pink.
Last year it was blue.
It was blue last year.
This year it's pink.
It's never been red in your, 25, 26 years?
It has been red in the past.
Okay.
It has been red in the past. T-Mobile, who was a primary sponsor this year, I think because that's one of their color schemes of their ad campaigns now. I think they picked the color of pink. It was a lovely pink. Anybody that goes to my website, moviesharkdeblur.com, you can check out all the gorgeous videos that Lydia shot and edited of my carpet interviews.
The quality of the video is really beautiful on your site too.
That's all due to Lydia.
The warmth of the color in your interviews.
And the pink looks lovely, doesn't it?
Pink looks lovely.
And it reflects the skin tones very nicely.
Yeah.
But the carpet was a lot of fun. There were a lot of Spirit winners that also went on to be Oscar winners. Birdman being the biggest one.
I was checking my Twitter feed this morning and someone was complaining about Birdman winning at the Spirits because it's a $22 million budgeted film starring A-list actors distributed by Fox Searchlight? I believe so, yeah. So what is your take on that? Is it truly an indie film? And should it be lumped into that category? I think yes.
I think Birdman is an indie film. A lot of people were hot and heavy for Boyhood. But as I have said from the very beginning about Boyhood, this is just an expanded version from Richard Linklater of what he did with the Before trilogy.
True, right.
Instead of doing one film, 9 years apart, he just combined everything together over 12 years.
Right.
And the premise of following one family, which basically we do in the Before trilogy, the really great part of Boyhood was watching Eller Coltrane grow up on screen.
Yes.
I just love Eller, and he is one of the nicest young men out there.
So you think the Birdman situation, that's an empty complaint. It really belongs as part of that whole indie.
I think it does. And there's so much discussion on what determines an indie.
Right.
I do think, though, that Film Independent should be lowering the dollar amount for what qualifies, what can be considered for a film.
If you had the gavel, what would be that range for you?
I would knock it down to $5 million.
That's tough. $5 million. Wow.
You want to be indie? Be indie.
Okay.
That
would give a lot more spotlight to many of the films you cover and champion yourself. And that's, I think, as much as I love Birdman and I love Boyhood and all these great films that are part of the Spirits, I'd like to know, as a film fan, more about the $300,000 film that got a bad distribution deal but isn't actually a great film. That stars maybe not an A-level actor, but maybe a B-level actor who gives his or her best performance. These are the kind of things I'd like to see on a regular basis from these kind of award shows.
I'm with you on that because, as I've said over and over the years, this is where we're going to get our future filmmakers.
Right. Yeah.
This is where they're going to come from. But the Spirit Awards were absolutely fabulous. We started on the carpet, had some great interviews. One of my favorite, I have to say, with my gal, Rene Russo. We're going to hear our interview right now.
Nice.
One quick one with Chase Renzi. My girl, Chase Renzi.
I love you. Oh my God, I'm thinking, what movie is that? Chase. Is there? What is it?
That was Showtime.
It was Showtime. Oh my God, you see how bad I am?
Because when we did the press day, and I had just told Dan, and I told you, Nina Romina is Chase.
Nina Romina, right? Yeah, she's on steroids.
That's it.
She's on steroids, absolutely.
Number one, congrats on the BAFTA nomination.
Oh, thank you so much.
I have been chastising every awards organization out there for passing you over for this role.
Sweet. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Look, I'm just happy I'm happy for Danny. That's the truth. I'm so happy for Danny.
How exciting is it?
I'm so happy for Danny. Oh my God, you have no idea. For me, okay, whatever. I got to tell you, whatever. For him, I'm really happy.
Well, I'm so happy for all of you. And you're going to be back on the screen soon, or you're going to...
Never know. If there's a good part, maybe.
Well, tell somebody to get to work.
Right, exactly. I got to get to work, too. I got to put it out there. Instead of, putting it in the garden.
Good. So good to see you again.
Good to see you, too. Bye.
And the beauty of that is that Dan Gilroy, her husband, who wrote and directed Nightcrawler, was standing immediately to her left. So she's throwing him shade about writing more parts and getting her more work.
Actually, the beauty of that is you came up with the Showtime reference, that film starring, I believe, De Niro and Shatner, and was Murphy in it?
Yes.
Wow. That was kind of a really obscure reference, but really cool.
Oh, and it's been a running joke for years between us.
Nice.
But she can never remember the names of her films. She remembers her characters, but not the films. So that was, catching up with Rene on the carpet. And I have to say, out of everybody at the Spirit Awards, I think that Rene Russo was the most joyous and the happiest when her husband Dan won best screenplay and best first feature for Nightcrawler.
Nice. Yeah.
She was in tears, but
wow.
ecstatically beaming.
Yeah.
So I couldn't be happier for Rene, for Dan, and for Nightcrawler, which we have all loved.
I love that quote when she says, I need to start putting it out there instead of putting it into my garden. So I can imagine her backyard, so.
But no sooner did we leave the carpet and the show started, sat in the press tent, and who do I get to then have come walking back? None other than Dan Gilroy, now a two-fisted winner for Best Screenplay and Best First Feature at the Spirit Awards. And here's what I got to ask Dan. How difficult was it to persuade the lovely Chase Renzi to play Nina Romina?
Chase Renzi, well, actually, Rene Russo played it.
I know.
So Chase actually is the name that she had in Showtime.
Yeah.
That's inside baseball right there. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Renee's my wife, and I wrote the part for her, and she didn't see it until it was done. But it didn't take any convincing. She elevated the material, I think, like all the actors did. It was a reductive script. There was not a lot that was really described. And I thought all of the actors actually brought life into these characters in a way that the script didn't have.
So he was very happy too.
My mom this morning, she was saying she is yet to see Nightcrawler, but she saw a trailer for Nightcrawler. And she said, just looking at Jake's performance, he should have supplanted some of the Oscar nominees. I'm not going to name which actors, but do you feel Jake definitely?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because for best, and I can tell you right now who I would have bumped out of Best Actor, and I think you know.
You're just going to say it?
Steve Carell.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, gotcha.
Absolutely. I would have bumped Carell and supplanted Jake.
Okay. I'm just surprised. I think Redmayne was the favored one last night.
Eddie's been favored, for quite a while. He got on a roll.
Right.
And it was coming down to Keaton and Redmayne.
How do you not pick Keaton, though, in that situation? Kind of the body of work, all those years.
But see, there again, you can't look at the body of work.
I know.
It's on the performance. It's on the performance.
I totally agree. I'm trying to get into the mind of the average Academy voter, and I'm thinking they might have given him that extra little push, but it seems that I was wrong.
I mean, Eddie's portrayal of Stephen Hawking
Oh yeah.
is just, you are in tears watching that film, because you also know the odds that this man beat in life. And he is still here, and he is still working, and he is still fighting, and he is still enlightening us. And we're going to commercial break. We'll be right back. Behind the Lens is sponsored in part by the Culver City Observer. Located in the heart of Screenland, Culver City Observer is available in print and online at www.culvercityobserver.com.
And we're back.
And we are back. And we still have Baymax here.
We still have Baymax / Hal.
Hello, I am Baymax, your personal healthcare companion. Please remember, it is fun to be smart. Have fun.
Have fun.
Have fun.
And like Mr. Gilroy said, it's okay to be a little bit inside baseball with your Renzi Showtime reference.
I'm old. I'm wise.
No, that's great.
Sometimes, but we're very well preserved.
You know, part of being inside baseball is when you do a press conference, and I've been part of this. I always know that Debbie's going to ask the first or the second question, so I can kind of sit back and relax. And I'm sure that's probably what happened inside the tent with some of the directors who came back.
It did with some of them. Some of them I waited, and our colleague Jamie Philbrick got a few firsters in there.
Good.
So it was really nice to have myself, Ned Airbar from Metro, Ned who called in for it with us on the Golden Globes.
Yes.
Jamie was there. Scott Hoover was covering for In Style at this event. So Scott
Really?
was there.
Okay.
Yeah. Michael Hickson was there from the Beach Reporter.
They're all good reporters.
So, yes. So we were commandeering like the first row.
You guys anchored the whole spirit section, I guess. The press, as far as the press goes.
Shouldn't we?
You
No.
should. You should. Yeah.
But, a film that didn't win, but it wins in so many other respects, is Virunga. Academy Award nominee and Spirit Award nominee for Best Documentary. Executive produced by Leonardo DiCaprio. An amazing, powerful film about what's happening down in the Virunga National Park in the Congo. 880 mountain gorillas are left. There's been civil war down there. There's fighting over natural resources. And the gorillas are getting decimated. But there are a few people that are trying to do something about it. And one of them is the gorilla carer, the primary gorilla carer, Andre Bauma. Andre Bauma came from the Congo to the United States for the Spirits, for the Oscars.
Wow.
To talk about Virunga, to talk about his beloved gorillas. And with him was Orlando von Einsiedel, who produced and directed this. So I had a chance to talk to both of them on the carpet at the Spirit Awards. I was very privileged to get to talk to Andre because of his work. And here's what they had to say. Virunga.
Yes.
It is an amazing, amazing documentary. Where did this come from? What inspired this?
What inspired us was a hopeful story. These guys, the amazing work they're doing, and we just fell in love with that. We wanted to show a story that you don't normally hear from Congo, and that's what drew us in.
And for the two of you, how excited are you to be here today?
How do you feel to be here today?
I feel so happy to be here with many people and to tell about what is happening in Virunga National Park and in the problem we have in Congo. Now, many people will know our problems, and maybe we can get now people to help us, and this is we are waiting for, and give us a hope in our country, in our Virunga National Park.
And that was Andre, and it was a privilege to get to talk to him, because as you watch him, and again, this interview, the full interview, this was just a small excerpt of it. The full carpet interview is already up on my website.
Oh, nice.
So people can see, the passion. You just see it in his face, how proud he is and how thrilled he is that his 880 mountain gorillas are getting some attention.
And this was one of your top documentaries from last year?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely one of my top docs. But I'll tell you, the doc that did win, that everybody has predicted all year long, it picked up a Spirit Award, picked up an Oscar, is Citizen4.
Well deserved.
Well, you've seen it?
I've seen it. You know what? I
have issues.
For me, I'm very sentimental, so I have a personal bias towards Wim Wenders. So anything with salt of the earth, I'm kind of, the idea of a man traveling the world and embedding himself in different cultures, and that to me, I mean, obviously Citizen4 definitely deserved it, but I guess it really depends on your taste as far as the documentary format. But I love those long journeys, whether it's the Congo, whether it's in the Middle East or whatnot. So that was my personal pick.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And, I would have, for me, it would be either Virunga or Salt of the Earth.
Right.
But, Citizen4 is such a globally important
very topical
documentary. Yeah. And is so important to the United States Constitution, freedom of speech,
right,
and all the issues that we have been facing in terms of this transparency. And granted, what Edward Snowden did, disclosing, disseminating,
right,
very important, has sparked a lot of controversy, but a lot of changes and a lot of discussion. And it's something that was needed to happen. Parts of the documentary I had problems with.
Such as
Snowden's mugging for the camera.
Right.
Things like, and I still have take issue with, if you are really doing something to benefit the country, to benefit the United States the citizens of the United States, just put it out there. Don't do this the encryption and picking out journalists or something. Just disseminate it everywhere. Don't leave it to a journalist to decide what to disseminate. If you're that passionate about it, just put it out there.
Well, the good thing is that entire field was all quality films. So
that's rare.
Yeah, very rare.
That's extremely rare. But I had a chance to talk to Laura Poitras, not only on the carpet, but also after she picked up her Spirit Award.
Nice.
So, here's what she had to say. Did you ever think you'd be holding that in your hand?
No. We prepared for a lot of bad case scenarios. We didn't spend a lot of time thinking about good case scenarios, so we weren't.
So how does it feel for the best case scenario?
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, there were some times where we, Glenn and I, when we were debating whether or not, when and if we'd be coming back to the U.S. So this is fun. Do you want to?
Yeah, no, and I also think it's great because there's a huge debate about what Edward Snowden did and the virtues of defying the government in order to bring transparency, and I think this is a really good commentary on the nobility of doing that and the bravery of doing that, and regardless of what you think, on the importance of the debate that it can trigger.
So,
yeah.
Yes. And then they went on to win Oscar.
And then they went on to win Oscars. Have you ever covered the Oscars?
I have. Years ago I did, and I stopped 7 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just got tired of the whole kind of thing in the back, and it's just really, everyone's just, like sardines, right?
I would much rather focus on the smaller event like the Spirit Awards and the smaller films that don't get as much love.
Yeah.
So, but...
Something to champion.
Something.
That's part of your MO.
Yes. That's part of my MO. But then, everybody, the woman who was unstoppable this year, for the film that so many are ranting and raving today that it did not win an Oscar, Boyhood, but for this one. Right.
I think Boyhood should have won the Oscar. That's my personal opinion.
I think Grand Budapest should have won.
Are we just saying that Birdman should not have won the Best Picture for the Oscar?
No, I think Birdman was very deserving.
Yeah.
All of the elements of it, you know, when I look at a best of something, I look at all the elements that comprise it.
Yeah.
And Grand Budapest, I think it was a little more creative and inventive, especially when it came for both Birdman and Grand Budapest Hotel. Amazing cinematography. The Grand Budapest were shooting in 3 different aspect ratios in one film. You know, Birdman, you've got Luzbecki, who won the Spirit Award and won the Oscar, who is shooting to give it a one-shot look for the whole film. There were some cuts in there, and even as Inarritu and Luzbecki both said, you know, there are cuts. So it's not one shot. But the cinematography of both these films, stunning.
You know, what was stunning was it, tone-wise, it stayed on that same fever pitch from the opening seconds. And it just really, maybe the rooftop sequence, it let up a little bit, but it was just pure energy, pure cinematic energy. And for that, I mean, that it's one of my favorite films from last year. But again, I'm a sentimentalist, and I really loved what they did with Boyhood. And I felt it was really kind of unjustly ignored as far as Best Picture goes.
Well, luckily, Patricia Arquette picked up her Spirit Award and her Oscar Award for Best Supporting Actress.
A.K.A. Alabama from True Romance. I'm throwing out Chase Renzi Showtime thing.
Okay, your turn now.
Okay,
your turn.
that's my favorite character.
You're Inside Baseball.
Inside Baseball, True Romance, one of my all-time favorite films. So.
Wow. So I had a chance to ask Patricia Arquette about winning, because on stage when she accepted, she mentioned about being invited to the party for the first time. So how was the party going for her? Now, Patricia, you mentioned that this is your first time being invited to the party.
Yeah.
So how's the party so far?
That's pretty good. No, it's nice to be here. I mean, because I've turned down a lot of big movies. I have for many, many years, and sometimes it was very difficult, being a single mom at 20, to turn down a movie that was a big movie that I didn't love as a movie. And instead, I was doing independent films. So this is the Independent Film Awards, so it's very nice to be asked.
Yes. And of course, following up the Spirit Award with her Oscar acceptance speech.
Oh, yeah.
Which just set the room on fire.
Yeah. It was a very safe acceptance speech, right?
Yes, yes. But, you know,
hit the nail.
The fact that she took a lot of role, you know, as a single mom, it was very difficult for her with the choices she was making. If we had the equal pay, maybe it wouldn't have been as difficult for her.
Yeah.
So this was something, she set the groundwork for the Oscar speech.
Curious question. Have you seen True Romance? I just got to put it out
I have.
There. Your thoughts on that movie?
I have none.
You have none. You have no thoughts on one of my all-time favorite films.
No,
you liked it.
And
she was great as Alabama.
Better
in Boyhood. Yeah, of course.
But definitely better in Boyhood. Oh yeah. There is no denying, you know, her skills.
Definitely. There's one film that she did years ago that I really want to check out. It's called Beyond Rangoon, directed by John Borman, who I love his work. I haven't seen. He did Point Blank and The Emerald Forest, but I really want to revisit some of her earlier work from the 90s. So.
Well, now's the perfect time to do it.
Yes.
And then, of course, and as a reminder to people, we're going to have Bruce Wagner, screenwriter of Maps to the Stars, calling in shortly.
Nice.
What's exciting about Bruce, besides the film, which I am crazy about, Maps to the Stars, but it also stars our Best Actress winner at the Spirit Awards and the Oscar Awards, Julianne Moore. Yeah. So, and we have Bruce calling in now. So why don't we talk to Bruce now? Oh, we're waiting. We're getting the waiting sign.
We're getting the waiting sign.
So,
I did love Maps to the Stars as well, by the way.
Is it not fabulous?
Yes, very, very fabulous.
Oh, my God. I was blown away. Of course, I'm a huge Cronenberg fan anyway.
Same here. Yeah.
I mean, David Cronenberg always pushes that envelope.
Do you have a favorite Cronenberg film?
A Dangerous Method.
I love that film. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You know, I'm partial to The Fly, History of Violence.
History of Violence.
Well. Yeah.
But definitely my favorite Cronenberg film, but Maps of the Stars is right up there, and I think it's because it is so inside.
Yeah, very inside baseball, but it's a great collaboration between Cronenberg and Wagner. Both of them have their own kind of aesthetic, and it merges perfectly.
And we now have the good to go sign. So, Bruce Wagner, how are you?
Hi, Deb. How are you? I'm well.
I am so thrilled to talk to you again. I just love this movie so much, and at the Spirit Awards on Saturday, I even got to mention how great the film is and the performance to Julianne Moore when she picked up her Spirit Award for Best Actress.
Yeah, it's all lovely, and I thank you for that. I'm thrilled that you love the movie.
So Greg is here with me, and
Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Greg.
So we talked at length about this incredible film, and I am so excited about it, and I have not come down from the high of our conversation about it. Where did this story come from? This is a very inside Hollywood, inside baseball story, but it just touches on life.
Well, it's I feel like Richard Linklater's daughter in Boyhood. I mean, this movie was developed for so long. I wrote it probably 22 or 3 years ago. And at the time, I wrote it as a kind of antidote for this corrupt path that I felt that I was taking. I was writing scripts for money that were never getting made, and I was becoming deeply depressed. So I wrote it as a kind of cri de coeur, a shout in the dark. It was a film that I never thought would be made, so I wrote it like a journal would be cathartic or a diary. So the way I write, although people may think otherwise or somehow get that idea, I don't write anecdotally. I don't write from real life, so to speak. I kind of invent my characters and storylines from a place of deep darkness and self-examination. So that's what I do. So the story doesn't, I certainly didn't know any. I'm sure they're out there, any incestuous Hollywood marriages that begot monster children. But I just wanted to comment on the extremities, let's say, that are available here in Hollywood of the human comedy and the human template. So that's what I did.
Well, something that I found extremely fascinating with the film and the story, the psychological complexities of the characters, the haunting, the ghosts, tackling the ghosts of each of the characters, the guilt, the sins, the lies, and the irony in a town that it's taking place in a town that's built on secrets.
Well, I think it's part of the human experience and predicament that we live in a kind of hall of mirrors, So the movie, David and I did not want to make a commentary or an expose of Hollywood, per se. I'm from here, so it was natural that I use the backdrop for my dramatis personae. It was just a natural inclination. You write about what's in your backyard or front yard or basement. But the movie is not a satire or observation of the mores and manners of Hollywood. It's really more about human behavior. It's very much a kind of melodrama, a fever dream of a dysfunctional Hollywood family. And yes, there are ghosts abound and secrets abound, and the characters come to a kind of classically tragic end. And perhaps everyone in Hollywood will come to that tragic end, but the cycle is rapid. It's kind of got the lifespan of an insect. Terrible things happen to people, and then we move on to the next triumph or tragedy. That's just the nature of the ADD world we live in now.
Just wondering, what is the key to your collaboration, Bruce, with David? Because both of you have very uncompromising, singular visions on humanity and storytelling. Was that a perfect kind of marriage for you?
Yeah, perfect. David and I often talk about ourselves as twins. What I've said before is that, like in The Fly, it was as if David and I got into the same pod and our DNA commingled. I wrote the script really before I knew David well, and then we became great friends over the years. And there were so many things about the script in terms of body mutilation, The burns on Agatha Weiss, spiritual humiliation and desperation, Julianne Moore's character, Havana Sagran. There were extreme sexual partnerships and perversions, and there was also a kind of, aside from humor, and David has said that all of his movies are comedies, and he's not joking about that, and I understand what he means. There was a kind of hopefully poetic or spiritual aspect to Maps to the Stars, because neither one of us feels that you can dead end with just bleakness and darkness. So, for whatever reason, we had a mutual themes were in play, themes that are important to both of our work as artists.
Now, the characters are riveting. Each character is as intense and as engrossing as the next. But the two real standouts are Julianne Moore's Havana and Mia Wasikowska's Agatha. How did you go about crafting each of those characters and that ultimate relationship and entanglement of the two?
Well, oddly, I think that those two characters are kind of bookends. In other words, Mia arrives in Los Angeles with her scars visible on her physical body, and she represses everything else. You never know what she's thinking or feeling. Whereas Julianne's character, everything is up front. Her desperation, her shame, her humiliation is right there. And any scars that she has about her own relationship, let's say with her mother in the past, are inside. So the Julianne keeps herself present and sane by this catharsis of all the toxic parts of her. Mia keeps herself sane by the repression of them. And then, of course, toward the end of the movie, Julianne gets more balanced because she gets this part that she always wanted, so she becomes less desperate. And Mia throws all of her medication away that have kept the ghosts and psychosis at bay, and she becomes more desperate. So it's a perfect storm for those two, but they're really the same person, the same person for me.
Just a younger and older version.
Yeah.
I mean, it is seamless watching the two of them and the transformation of their characters throughout this screenplay. One of the very interesting things here is this is the first film that David Cronenberg has actually shot any part of in Los Angeles.
Yeah, we were going to make this movie 10 years ago, and there were some problems. One of the problems was that David wanted to shoot the entire movie here in L.A., and the cost was prohibitive. Another issue was Julianne had signed on then, but that would be with the financing that we arranged. She would be the only American actress that we could have. 10 years later, when David showed the script to Robert Pattinson when he was in Cannes with Cosmopolis, and Robert said he wanted to do it, Julianne was still available and eager to do it, but by then she had acquired a British and American citizenship. So she was dual. That was how we were able to hire John Cusack. And the compromise we made was we shot for 5 days here in Los Angeles, and it was the first film that David, at 70, ever shot on American soil. And I think you use that word seamless. I think it's impossible to realize that the movie was shot mostly in Toronto. So many of those locations, the house of Stafford Weiss, so many things that looked like they could have been here. Holmby Hills or UCLA were shot in Toronto. So that was really important, obviously, for us, and it was also so much fun for David to be shooting here in L.A., and I was just in all the old neighborhoods, the places I grew up in, in Beverly Hills and in Hollywood, the places that were kind of my stomping grounds as a boy.
So how beneficial was it to David, or how, critical was it that he have you available to him, since he'd never shot here before and you knew the ins and outs like the back of your hand?
Well, I think that the script was was fixed and in place, and David certainly does not need anyone to hold his hand. Not that that's what you were implying. We are great friends, and it was an honor and a privilege for me to be allowed on the set every day. And I think sometimes in terms of language or Americanisms, colloquialisms, it was helpful. There were some details that were very Hollywood-centric that David may or may not have been aware of in terms of things that we updated in the script. Mm-hmm. But it was really more of a learning experience for me and a joyous experience rather than David needing me to be there. I think ultimately it was a comfort for him that I was there, but it certainly wasn't mandatory. But I think that as we went along, we had some alterations in script and dialogue, and while David is a writer himself, I think it was always a great default to have me there.
Bruce, just a curious question. During your youth, I was reading past interviews. You actually had an experience when you actually drove Orson Welles to Mame San, and I'm just wondering Orson Welles' story. Does it surprise you to this day that such a visionary filmmaker, it would be hard for the third act in his life to get financing in Hollywood? Does that ever surprise you, or does nothing really surprise you as far as this town goes and the way the stories are shaped within this world?
No, I don't think anything's changed in that way. I think if you have a project that is from the heart and difficult, it will always not be easy to raise the money for that. And even after we had Julianne and Rob and David Cronenberg, we still couldn't ultimately get the amount of money that David wanted. I think that is very common and never stops, and that's where passion comes into it and perseverance. I mean, our movie is an extreme example, taking 22 years to get to the screen. But anytime you have something that is an outlier project or an art film, let me put it that way, which I believe Maps to the Stars is, it's going to be difficult. There are so many problems involved, and particularly since our movie had Hollywood as a backdrop, Hollywood movies are historically not movies that make tremendous profits, so that added another layer of difficulty to it. So one just simply has to persevere. I don't think that has changed. I've been doing this for 30, 35 years, and every year everyone says how difficult it is to get a movie made, and it's no different today than it was when I first began.
What inspires you, Bruce, for scripts, for films, for stories, for books? You have such an eclectic background. I'm Losing You, Women in Film, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, a little bit in there. Now you've got Maps of the Stars, which I really think is your finest work.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I'm primarily a novelist, Debbie, so that's where the raw material is generated. And you'll find Maps to the Stars exists in some kind of chromosomal form in Wild Palms, a mini-series that I wrote that Oliver Stone produced for ABC 20 years ago. You'll find it in Force Majeure, the very first book I wrote. You'll find it in Dead Stars. It's kind of woven throughout all of my work. As an artist, I have a reservoir which sometimes runs very low and sometimes is overbrimming. And I can't say, what inspires me the most, I would say, is the kind of the poignancy of the human predicament, of being human on this planet, the hardships that people encounter, and that they either succumb to them or surmount them, live through them or not, is the ultimate dramatic question for me. And to show how people live through things or not is, I think, the goal of any dramatist worth his salt. So I'm inspired by the dark and the light. I don't think you can have one without the other. Otherwise it's a kind of closed set. It's an end game.
Do you have a passion project yet that you haven't done?
I have a script now. I've just finished another novel, and I have a script now that is a passion project. And we'll see what happens with it. It's called Gigi, but I've just finished it, and we'll see. But generally, I kind of take things as they come because I've been doing this so long that I certainly don't get my hopes up if it's something particularly that I care deeply about. Maps to the Stars is a perfect example. I was 40 years old when I wrote it, and now I'm 60, or I was even 37, and now it's being made. So perhaps my next script will be made posthumously.
Don't even.
I just think you have to be excited about whatever you're writing, whether in the day, as you're writing it, you have to feel like that's it, and that's the important thing is that you actually got it out, and it's too much to think about in what form it will take and when it will happen and all of that,
Bruce, I have just a curious question. Your readers, your fan base, they can either really absolutely adore and be passionate about your work, and then there are other people who are detractors of your style and your storytelling. Is it kind of great to be in that kind of field where you have a really strong, passionate reaction to your narratives, kind of like other authors like James Ellroy? It's to have that kind of...
Well, I don't know if it's great. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote a novel a few years ago called Dead Stars, and the Wall Street Journal front page said it was a Rabelaisian masterpiece, and then a few days later, the New York Times said it was pornography. You get used to it, or at least you think you do. But Cronenberg is the same. He has the same divisive response to his work. And it simply is what is. It would be like, is it great that I have brown eyes, or is it great that I'm right-handed? I don't have any control over it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And would it be lovely to be, extolled by the world and given laurels? I don't know. It's just I'll never have that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to tell me anything at all about your new novel?
The new novel, let's see. It's in one of those delicate stages, Debbie, where I've just given it to the publishers. But it does take place. It does take place in Hollywood. I try to alternate novels about Hollywood with novels that don't. So my book, The Empty Chair, my last one, does not take place here. Mm-hmm. And this next one takes place in Hollywood with a celebrity who has won an Academy Award. I wrote it before Julianne won hers, and it's about human relationships, very much like Maps to the Stars was. It's kind of a chamber piece to Maps to the Stars. It's a kind of, let's say, bookend, but on a little bit of a smaller scale. So we'll see. I don't think that will come out till next year in the spring.
Mm-hmm. So will we see you and David pairing up and collaborating again on something? I hope.
I hope so too. David does not develop too many things at all, and he has to care deeply about them. So the fact that I have a relationship with David that it has a lot of history to it and a lot of breadth to it doesn't mean that I can come up with something that he will want to do. He's mm-hmm. very, very much his own man and artist that way. So he's busy writing novels. He wrote a book called Consumed last year, his first mm-hmm. novel, and I think he may be writing another one. So we'll see. Obviously it's a joy to work with him, but we just have to see what time and material produces.
Well, I absolutely love what the two of you have brought to us with Maps to the Stars, and I sincerely hope that you get to collaborate on something again.
Well, God, you'll be the first people I ring up to tell you.
Oh, I will be waiting, and when you call, I will actually answer my phone. Bruce, thank you so much. I can't tell you what a pleasure this was.
Yeah.
It was the same for me. I really appreciate your interest and your love of the film.
Oh, thank you, Bruce, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Okay, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And that was Bruce Wagner, screenwriter of Maps to the Stars. And we're going to take a short break right now, and we'll be right back. Located in the heart of Screenland, Culver City Observer is the #1 newspaper in Culver City, covering local news, politics, and community events, with sports by Mitch Chortkoff, and movie reviews by Debbie Lynn Elias, Culver City Observer is the place to go to be in the know. When you think Culver City and the heart of Screenland, think Culver City Observer. When you think movies and movie reviews, think Culver City Observer. Culver City Observer, a division of Arizona Newspaper Group, is available in print and online at www.culvercityobserver.com. You know, I think we need different bumper music. We need a French horn in there.
Little French horn. That was a very good interview, by the way, with Bruce Wagner. No French horn, but it was good.
No French horn.
Very good interview.
One day somebody's going to call in and ask us about our French horn references.
Yes.
So until somebody does, we're not telling you what we're talking about.
But Maps to the Stars, definitely worth a watch.
It's a stunner. I love the film. I love it.
Julianne Moore, excellent in the movie. Like you said, Mia Wasikowska, excellent as well. I think you championed one of her other films that she did maybe last year. Was it called Tracks or something like that? So that's another kind of... I'm really impressed with her body of work so far.
Oh, it is amazing. And, that's one of the complaints I have with Oscar, because the actresses were limited to 5.
Right.
Because if you're going to nominate Reese Witherspoon for Wild, Mia should have been in there for Tracks.
Right.
Another emotional journey, another beautiful film of a woman on her own.
I have to see that movie.
With camels.
Nice.
In the Australian outback.
But yeah, Julianne Moore was definitely. Were you happy about the win?
I was thrilled.
Yeah.
I was thrilled because Still Alice, it's a little film. Not a lot of people have seen it as yet.
Right.
But it stuns. It is just so amazing. And it came out in that pathway where we had 37 A Final Promise dealing with illness. Then we had You're Not You, or I'm Not You, with Hilary Swank and Emmy Rossum.
Oh, right. I haven't seen that. Yeah, it came out last year.
It is one of the most powerful female-driven movies that I've seen in a long time. Their performances are stunning. And, of course, then we get Still Alice, talking about Alzheimer's, but written by a gentleman afflicted with ALS.
Right.
I mean, it's just... And I love that all of these, illnesses are being brought to the forefront because Alzheimer's it's so prevalent. We're becoming more and more aware of it. It's no longer, grandma's crazy, lock her up in a closet. And I applaud Maria Shriver for all the work that she's done.
Right.
And she's one of the executive producers of Still Alice.
And the fact is, no matter what age, you're always going to have the dream of being a filmmaker, no matter what kind of disease you have or what kind of station you are in life. It's always a big dream to actually make your first film or your second film, or getting the financing, and to actually have that spotlighted as well. The pure love of filmmaking, even through harsh and tragic times.
Yes. And, I had a chance to talk to Julianne Moore after she won her Spirit Award on Saturday. So, Julianne, down here, you've got Carrie, you've got Still Alice, Maps to the Stars is coming out. Equally powerful performance. How are you finding the balance and picking such gems out of everything that you look at?
I'm just lucky with what's come my way, honestly. I mean, the fact that I've had a year where I had both Maps to the Stars and Still Alice, I'm blown away by my good fortune. We have very little control. The only control we have is where we say yes or no, but we can't control what comes to us.
And she's so correct.
Well, on having control, she's managed to actually balance. We were talking earlier in the show about independent spirits and having that kind of indie flavor to your body of work. And over the years, she's just really balanced both fields. I don't think there's an actor who's actually come even close to balancing it so well.
And she's a children's book author.
Right.
Yes.
I should probably start reading some of her stuff because that's my reading level myself. But, from her early work, with the stuff with Paul Thomas Anderson, with Boogie Nights.
Evolution.
Evolution, her work with Todd Haynes in Safe and Far From Heaven. And now she still continues that trend. Even while doing studio projects, she comes back and does stuff like Still Alice and Maps to the Stars, and with great filmmakers as well. So
yeah, and, when Maps to the Stars releases, and I can't remember the release date at this moment, but it is just stunning. And to see her and actually see her engage with a cameo by Carrie Fisher from Carrie Fisher is just, and Carrie Fisher has probably one of the greatest lines of movie dialogue for 2015, and I think eventually it's going to end up on the AFI Top 100 list of memorable movie lines.
Oh, nice.
I think Carrie Fisher's going to get it for her line of dialogue in Maps of the Stars.
And we're not going to spoil it for you.
We're not going to spoil it for anybody, but it is absolutely delicious. So well worth seeing. So next week we have coming up my exclusive interviews with Jason Blum, CEO and head of Blumhouse Productions and executive producer of The Lazarus Effect, which opens this Friday. It is phenomenal. Phenomenal. And I'll talk to David Gelb also. And we'll be talking with Jan Damage. We'll hear what he has to say.
71.
About the riots in Belfast.
Yeah.
So, we got a lot of stuff coming up.
Stuff.
A lot of good movies coming out. And we're getting played out.
And see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Thanks.